DeAndre Hopkins' situation right now is very unique because he is still one of the top wide receivers in the NFL. But right now, he's in a position where he has no home. He is a free agent who was released by the Arizona Cardinals because they're totally not tanking, right? Yeah, I think they're tanking with Kyler Murray injured. But DeAndre Hopkins is a free agent, and he's visited a couple teams. And there are some reports that have come out where we know exactly who is interested in DeAndre Hopkins. The question is, where will he land? And will he reunite with a friend who recently spoke out about him? A friend who he had a lot of success with, nearly knocked the Chiefs out of the playoffs. I was clapping my hands, hoping that happened until Patrick Mahomes came back. But DeAndre Hopkins, Deshaun Watson, could it be a possibility? I think so. So we're going to get into it, talk about the latest news with DeAndre Hopkins and what's happening there, man. And this guy, this is a huge story because it's just so rare for a guy of this caliber to be available. All you got to do is offer him a contract. And usually it's like, okay, I know this guy's available, but I got to trade. I got to give up all these picks. I got to ruin my future. And then if it doesn't work out, I'm as a GM, I look like the dumbass. You know what I mean? But this guy is just here, and he has said before he's down to play with the Bills. He said before the Chiefs and whatnot. But is this all smoke? And we're looking at this picture here of Watson, who is now going to be back in the NFL. Speaking of the Cleveland Browns, didn't play much last year because of some allegations that he had and, you know, the legal trouble that he went through and whatnot. But he looks pretty happy there playing there with D-Hop.
I mean, yeah, for sure. His passer rating with D-Hop when he had him, what was it, 2017, 2019, something like that?
Yeah.
Is 101.0 with 9,716 yards, 71 touchdowns, 29 picks in 38 games.
Wow.
And I think they have off the field chemistry, right?
They have off the field chemistry. You just you look at them smiling together and whatnot. They seem happy. You know, the thing about it is, like, I also wonder, was he really happy with Kyler Murray? I mean, like, we kind of avoid this because he makes some comments here and there about, you know, how you need a leader at QB. And then at the same time, he says, oh, Kyler Murray's great, but he just seems like he's been eager to get out of there. And I think even without the injury issue to Kyler Murray, I think this guy's looking to split. Think about it. If you know what it's like to catch passes from Deshaun Watson and then you switch to Kyler Murray and you notice the difference, I think you're going to be looking over and being like, I don't know if this little shortstop is going to be good enough. He's playing too much Call of Duty.
Well, I know in week 3, you know, with the Raiders, we had Kyler Murray obviously not being very accurate, and they only saved the game, you know, owing to Raiders mistakes, and then him just doing 80 yards back and forth in the backfield there with Max Crosby running after him.
I think that's the thing about Watson, though, is he has the mobility, but he still goes with his arm first. And if you're somebody like Hopkins who wants your numbers, just how many times have we seen Watson just, you know, move around a little bit and chuck it up, and for some reason it's just almost like a magnet to DeAndre Hopkins. I mean, we've seen this happen multiple times. And the latest story, according to Aaron Wilson, who works for the local NBC station in Houston, is that DeAndre Hopkins and Deshaun Watson reunion in Cleveland is a strong possibility, and it seems like most likely at this point. We're going to get into Watson's comments on Hopkins in a little bit, but the Texans were originally interested. Some people thought, hey, this could be a weapon for CJ Stroud. We know Stroud does not have many weapons out there, but now the Texans are crossed off, and I figured that. I mean, D-Hop has already been on the Texans before. Does he really want to do that again? They say Bill O'Brien's no longer there, but who knows? There's been some rumors about the Patriots. Bill Belichick was asked about DeAndre Hopkins, and Belichick said, oh, I don't talk about players who aren't on the team, in his
creepy little Belichick voice. I'm not talking about the people who are not on the team.
Yeah. He kind of gave him an accent,
talk
actually.
About
people who aren't on the team. We're not talking about real ones.
Just stone cold. No, and then the Bills apparently reportedly don't have, you know, any salary cap space for him. So they're out of the running because it was initially like Chiefs and Bills, right?
Yeah.
And then the Bills are out. So then it was like process of elimination. No.
And then, like, if the only people who would be upset about this rumor about D-Hop going to the Browns with Watson is the AFC North. Lamar Jackson talking about, oh, I'm fixing to throw for 6,000 yards. Like, now that he has Zay Flowers and all this. I mean, the Cleveland Browns. I mean, let's just go ahead and take a look. I mean, I was going to bring up D-Hop's numbers, and we'll bring up D-Hop's numbers in just a little bit, but let's just take, because I think this Cleveland Browns crap is real. It's regarded as a strong possibility. We know these people love each other, worked well. DeAndre Hopkins, 30 years old right now. Last year, did not play too much about the second half of the season. He got busted for PEDs a little bit, and dude had, like, you know, one of his worst seasons, and one of his worst seasons is still 700 yards and 1,064 receptions. So come on, man. If that's your worst season, I'm taking that all day. And like we said, do I think he's going to return to the D-Hop with Watson? 1,100 yards, 7 TDs, 11 TDs, 13 TDs in one season. Insane grades. Can he return to this guy? Well, he's not even going to be expected to be that guy with the Cleveland Browns. When you're looking at the Cleveland Browns and looking at their roster on the offensive side of the ball, you know, you have Amari Cooper already as the #1 wide receiver. And this dude is still very productive, man, in the NFL. Still a younger cat towards the end, still 28 years old, making a splash after being selected by the Raiders with pick 4 in 2015. You got him, you got DeAndre Hopkins, you got Njoku. Njoku just got paid, by the way, and for a little while he's making more money than Darren Waller, and that's why Darren Waller had to go out there and fight for a new contract. But you got these weapons. You got Elijah Moore, who they just got a trade from the Jets, the speedster slot receiver. And yes, Donovan Peoples-Jones I think has done well, but he's still a 6th-round pick, and I think you pump the brakes on that guy if you have a chance to get D-Hop. You got Nick Chubb as your running back as well. Who knows if Kareem Hunt's going to be back? I think he's still a free agent. The only weak spot of this offense right now, according to PFF, is also the strongest spot, which is Deshaun Watson, because he had a bad year last year after shaking the rust off. It's been 2 years.
Yeah, he's been out for 2 years. It's okay.
And it seems like psychologically the legal trouble is sort of behind him. It's not super affecting the guy. So if you're telling me you got Amari Cooper, DeAndre Hopkins, Donovan Peoples-Jones is a backup, and Elijah Moore too supplementing there, Njoku, Nick Chubb, Lamar Jackson, I think you might see somebody in your division throw close to 6,000 yards who ain't you. You know what I mean? That's what I think is going to happen.
I know. Yeah.
I mean, come on, Lamar. I mean, Lamar's like never even thrown 4K. So let's just start with 4K. So that makes the division scary because the Steelers, still a scary team because you got Mike Tomlin, TJ Watt's going to come back. Then you have the Baltimore Ravens, who when Lamar is healthy, they are always a factor, even though I'm throwing shade on Lamar. And the Browns and the Bengals, who were just at the Super Bowl a few years ago. So loaded division might actually be the best division in football, especially if they had DeAndre Hopkins.
It's interesting that BetUS still has the Bills potentially landing him higher odds, because I think the general manager for the Bills did speak to Hopkins directly, but the Bills only have $1.5 million in cap space, which is the second lowest number in the NFL, and the only team with less is the Chiefs, and those are the two, teams that were reportedly in the running for him. So, how many times do we hear these kinds of rumors, and then it's a team that was, not reported to be interested? So
yeah, and he never mentioned them too, because there's that video where he did that TikTok thing, and it's kind of TikTok filmed where he said his facial reaction to each team. Yeah. And they never mentioned the Browns, from what I remember.
Yeah.
And let's just take a look at how he responds to this guy.
Calls to your boy Hopkins.
Well, me and D-Hop, we just naturally talk. We've been talking since, the Houston days, and then also whenever he left for Arizona, we were always talking. So, he's always been a brother of mine since I was coming out of high school. Our connection, our relationship has always been great. And I know there's a lot of things swirling around in the media of, him possibly coming to Cleveland. And, for me, my answer to that is, of course, we would love to have him. He knows that. We had a lot of connections, but, that's kind of out of my range of things, of kind of coordinating things. So all I can do is, make a call and see what happens. Let AB do the rest.
Let it do the rest, and that's pretty special there. When you have him saying that they've had a connection since he was coming out of high school. I mean, I didn't even know that prior to listening to this thing. And he says we'll love to have him. Obviously, he wants it. It's about the front office, but dude, the franchise gave this dude $250 million guaranteed. Lamar straight up missed the playoffs to try to get the same deal. They still wouldn't do it. This franchise is all in on Deshaun Watson. Now, on one level, if you're, the Browns and you're like, really, Deshaun, you need DeAndre to make this happen? We're already paying your ass. You should be able to make it happen with whoever we give you. Yeah, Cooper and Moore and Njoku and some good, decent weapons. But it's like, if you want to let the fan base know, and if you want to make the fan base happy immediately, I mean, they're immediately contenders to win the division with Hopkins. There's no doubt about it. They're contenders to win the Super Bowl because they've already had a great defense for the past few years. Baker Mayfield was, a question mark at quarterback, and the coaching changes, I think, really got to him, and then he had a shoulder injury. But if Watson could get back to normal, and I think he can, the dude has a high ceiling, even if he wasn't playing on a live football field, you know he was working out. He's shaking the rust off. And if you give him D-Hop, and maybe D-Hop, he's already made a lot of money. The Cardinals released him. They're eating dead money. He's probably still getting paid from the Cardinals technically. Like, he could take a cheaper contract to play with his friend. I mean, that's a possibility, especially if, like, you're mentioning the Chiefs cap situation, the Bills cap situation. Are they really going to pay him more than what the Browns would pay him?
Yeah, but a lot of people think Hopkins is looking for a long-term extension. He's looking to get paid.
Like a fat contract?
And it's mainly about money, and the Bills are hoping that it's not a bidding war, but it's DeAndre Hopkins. I'm sure it is. There is one behind the scenes. But like you say, if there's this sort of sentimental aspect of reuniting with a guy, trying to chase a ring, like maybe that can, get him to budge a little bit on the money situation. But it looks like he wants the bag. And why shouldn't he?
Yeah, why shouldn't he? It's going to be the last contract of his life.
He's 31.
Most likely at 31.
So
it's going to be the last real contract he's ever going to get.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I think in the NFL nowadays, we're only talking about contenders. Two things are incompatible to me. And this is from Hopkins' perspective. He wants to play for a contender, but then he wants the bag. Those things typically are not compatible. Now, could Hopkins go get paid, go into the Panthers? He can probably get the fattest contract he wants if he goes to the Panthers. If he goes to the Houston Texans too, he can get a much fatter contract. But from what we're hearing, according to Aaron Wilson, doesn't seem like he's interested in going to the Houston Texans. And I don't think the Panthers have inquired at all. But to me, you got to pick one or the other. And there's going to be an element of compromise for DeAndre Hopkins. Yes, you want to get paid. You're not going to get paid much if you're going to a team that doesn't necessarily need you to be in the Super Bowl conversation. That's the Chiefs and the Bills. They don't necessarily need him to be in the Super Bowl conversation. So I think that's an issue. Now, do the Browns need him to be in the Super Bowl conversation? And can he chase a ring just by being added to the Browns? I think so. I don't think they're in the conversation without him. I think they still don't have enough weapons. They have good weapons that have potential in Elijah Moore and Donovan Peoples-Jones. But I think Hopkins just completes that entirely.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of interesting. In the AFC North and East, you have kind of the Patriots and the Steelers potentially trying to scratch and claw their way out of the bottom of the division for the first time in God knows how long. So
yeah,
there's some movement there. Bengals, I think they're strong. I like the LSU squad over there. You know, there's plenty of competition here. And again, with Lamar, can he stay healthy? We don't know how that's going to work out. I remember saying, hey, Tyler Huntley, he could get it done.
Oh, yeah.
I remember hyping him up a little bit. But yeah, I mean,
they're better with Lamar, though.
It's a competitive division for sure. So we'll see what happens. And I think the Bills were talking about, correct me if I'm wrong, because Josh Allen has said, so his deal was restructured, I think, in March with Von Miller. They were talking about potentially having like a situation where Allen has said he's willing to take less, to go really team friendly.
Yeah.
And to potentially have, I forget what the word is, but it's something like the contract sort of keeps up with inflation, but it like adjusts with inflation.
The percentage.
Like it's more of a percentage based situation. So I don't know what's going on there. Bills could still be in the running, but wouldn't that be an interesting story to see them reunited on the Browns?
I mean, I think it'd be interesting. And the reason why I want it to happen is because right now it sort of feels like, just looking at the AFC, it just feels obvious who the top dogs are.
Yeah.
The top dogs are the Chiefs, the Bills, and the Bengals. And it's been like that for the past 2 seasons.
Yeah.
Those are the guys that we know are going to be in contention to make the Super Bowl. Those are the 3 teams. There's other ones that could come up. Do I see it happening? AFC South, no. AFC West, no. Even though I would like one of them, but let's be real. In AFC East, the Jets now maybe. When I look at the Jets compared to the Browns, I like the Browns more than the Jets when I'm just looking at the roster from my perspective. So if adding D-Hop to the Browns, I just creates another Bills, another Chiefs. It gives us another team that we just think, whoa, this is Super Bowl potential here.